Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to see how you actually go about configuring a primary DNS server in a Redhat Linux 6 machine. Like, a lot of people find it a little difficult when it comes to DNS configuration, be it setting it up in a production environment or you go about creating a DNS server for your own lab environment to do some R&D on. And in this tutorial, we're going to lay out a basic, simple process of configuring a primary DNS server. So let's start and let's go about doing it. So let's do a yum list bind star, because bind is the package that comes integrated with Redhat Linux 6. And you need to install it, of course, to do any kind of DNS configuration, and install the bind package -y install bind star. And you see we got a bind -chroot package that is used in the production environment most of the times to configure DNS in a ch-rooted environment. So when we proceed more with the tutorial, you can understand and appreciate that better. So let's go about doing it. And the package installation is complete. Let's cross-check that bind star, and for x86-64 architecture, we see all the packages being installed. So that's good. That's nice. Now, the purpose of using a ch-root environment is for security compliance at times when when somebody just accidentally or deliberately happens to sneak into your system, then and tries doing something fishy with DNS. So the purpose of having a ch-root environment is that the hacker actually thinks that he is traversing to system EDC system, whereas he's actually doing that in the ch-rooted environment. So I'm just going to display you, like, once the bind is installed. So ls-l edc named.star, these are the configuration files that are used for bind. And let's traverse to where named. And this is the directory where all the configurations for the forward and reverse zones will be placing. So within this directory, you see there's another folder, another directory called chroot. And once you traverse to chroot, you'll see that it's got a similar structure, edc var usr dev. So that is basically why we will be using the ch-root environment, because as I said, that if a hacker happens to sneak in, he'll be thinking it's system var, system EDC, although he'll not be having access to the actual system EDC and var. So let's go about doing this. Now, the first task that needs to be done is to copy the configuration files from EDC, the bind configuration files from EDC to the ch-root EDC environment. So let's do that. So we're going to do cp-p, and always do with a -p option in case you do not want to mess up with the ownership and group and the permissions for these configuration files, which of course, if you do not do this way, so you'll end up changing them at a later stage. So cp-p edc name.star to say where named ch-root edc. And let's put them here. Let's traverse to this folder and cross-check whether the file's been copied perfectly or no. And yes, indeed, they have been. Now, the other thing that needs to be done is to cd to where named and copy the contents of where named ch-root where named. Okay, so let's make a tarball here, tar-cvf, and let's name it name.tar. For all the packages, let's list the contents tar-tvf, and we got name.tar, and the looks good. That is to ls-l, and let's move this name.tar to say where named ch-root where and named. Let's traverse to this directory, do an ls-l, and we got a name.tar. Let's extract it, tar-xvf, and put the name here. Now, there isn't a point in having another chroot within a chroot environment, so let's rm-rf the chroot folder. We do not need that. And we are good. We've copied the configuration file. So now let's do the next thing. Let's traverse to cd.///etc. So I am currently in the etc directory of my chroot environment. And let's have a look at the contents of the named.conf here. Named.conf. And this is the file. This is the major configuration file for the DNS configuration, and we're going to make some amendments here. And in this file, you specify the forward and reverse zones, and the corresponding files for the forward and reverse zone are kept in var name directory. And since we are using the chroot environment, in our case, it's going to be the var named of our chroot environment. So let's go about doing it. vi named.conf, and we're going to specify the IP address of our DNS server, and this one is 192.168.191.130, and let's put a semicolon after that because that's required. And I seriously suggest you do not skip any steps in these configurations. These files are sensitive, as in probably not putting an inverted comma or not putting a semicolon probably will mess up things. So just be a little meticulous. And query, and rather than putting it localhost, let's do it any, because we're not configuring it in a production environment, but you can specify the specific network. Suppose say 192.168.191/0/24 if 255.255.255.0 is a subnet that you're using. But for the time being and for the brevity of the matter, we're just going to put any here, put a semicolon, and just wait, we need to make further amendments as well. This is one thing done, this is done, and no, let's save it, and let's cap the contents of name.conf. This looks good. So we got things in place. Now, within this directory, there is another file named.rfc1912.zone. So let's cap the contents of this file as well. And if you see that this file got certain templates, how you go about specifying forward zone, reverse zone, things and stuff. So we're going to copy these templates. That's going to make a job easy. And vi edc, this is named.conf. And in this, let's paste this entry here. So our zone name, the domain name for our server is going to be ripolanen.internal. That's my name. And let's put a corresponding zone forward lookup zone file as well. So this is the entry we're making for a forward lookup zone. Do an escape I. So ripolanen.internal.forward.zone. So we know that it's a forward zone file. So we can put a relevant name that always makes the task easy for you. Now let's put up a file and make an entry for the reverse DNS configuration as well. And we will copy the syntax or the format from the above file. So let's do that. Let's paste it here. Now, since our, okay, you'll understand it momentarily. Let's do it. So, let me make the entry first. So it's going to be 191.168.192. Now, since my IP address is 192.168.191.130, so I'm using it in the reverse fashion, and you do not use the host part. You just specify here the network part of the IP address. And the reverse lookup file, let's make it and it's going to be ripolanen.internal.reverse.zone. And this allow update that is used for DDNS, and at this point of time, we're just ignoring it. We're not considering it really. You can delete this line as well in case you want to. That really doesn't matter. So let's go about saving the changes, and let's cap the contents of named.conf here. And this looks good. Okay. So within this folder, and I'll show you, we are at EDC, and let's traverse to cd.ls-l, and let's traverse to var for the chroot environment, because this is where we're going to place our forward and reverse lookup zone files. And within var, we need to transition to named, and cd to named. Got a little confused. Ooh, let's do a PWD again. And okay, so we have this name.localhost that's customary to the forward zone lookup file format that we have, and we have a name.loopback that's customary to the reverse zone lookup format. So let's do one thing. Let's do an ls-l and copy these files, cp-p, this to our forward lookup file that we've specified there. So that's going to be rippleanon.internal.forward.zone. And let's do it for the name dot, and you just see here I'm using the -p option because I told you that, because I do not want any don't want to land up in a situation where you're going to go about changing the ownership of the files again. So preferably always do it with the -p option. That loop back, and this is going to be rippleanon.internal.reverse.zone. So we have put the files there. Perfect. And let's go about making an amendment here. So vi this file and nsoa at the rate. So let's do say rippleanon dot internal. That's our domain, and that's the entry that we need to put, and that's done. So just take a note of one thing, that this domain, when we specified, let's remove this @ this is not required, and you need to follow this syntax because these files are syntax specific. And let's specify here root.rippleanon.internal, and this needs to end with the dot as well. Because here this root.rippleanon.internal is supposed to be the admin account or a user that can be contacted in case there are some issues. So you just need to specify, and it's customary to specify it this way. And let's remove this @ as well, and it's customary to put an @ here as well. So just observe the syntax of the name this file. So just keep on doing the way it's supposed to be done. And we need to define our name server. And since our host name is this, so .rippleanon.internal, and just now you need to end it with a full stop. Every time you make an entry here, you need to put a full stop here. And since we are not using IPv6, so we will just delete this line. We do not require it. And this is a name server that we have specified. If you've got more than one name server, you can specify that as well. So but for the time being, let's keep it simple, in fact. So now let's define our A record. And I'll just tab it out a little for the neatness. So let's put it out this way. Let's move it this way as well. And this is going to be an A record, and we need to specify the IP address for this, and this one is 192.168.191.130. This need not end with a full stop or a dot for that matter. And we have our other interface, because now all these systems are within the domain rippleanon.internal. So, and let's specify this as type A record as well, 192.168.181.129. This pretty much looks good to me now. Let's save this file. Got the contents again, as we usually do after making any entry to cross-check whether it looks good or no. So we have specified a domain, the root owner of that domain, and we have specified here the Mac 2 and Mac 1, both the interfaces, and that looks good. And let's make an entry for the reverse DNS as well. So let's go about making it, and let's remove an add here and specify by rippleanon.internal and let's specify it here root.rippleanon.internal. Put up a dot after this as well, and the name server, of course, that we need to specify. So let's specify it at the rate and by, and this one is going to be, again, copy the host name from here, rippleanon.internal, and a record that's being specified here. And since we are not using IPv6, so let's just remove this entry. We do not need it. I accidentally removed that B as well, so that isn't desired. Now, the next thing that comes is, because, this is the file that's there for the reverse DNS, so 192.168.191.130 and 129 are the two IP addresses that we have. So we need to specify here 130. So let's do a 130 and make it a PTR address type, and you need to do it for Mac 2 machine and put a dot after that. Do not forget to put a dot. I am specifying that again and again. So let's do a PTR and let's specify it here 1 dot. Let's save the configuration. Cat the contents of rippleanon.internal.reverse_zone. This one looks good as well. So this looks good, and what next to be done? What next to be done is to modify the contents of edcresolve.conf. So let's go about looking at that. So let's vi edcresolve.conf, and oops, we opened the wrong file. So vi edcresolve.conf, and here you need to specify a few entries. Like first thing is search rippleanon.internal. That's the domain, and specify the domain as say rippleanon.internal, and specify the name server that needs to be with it. So let's put it a little more neat. And this one is going to be 192.168 and make it 191.130. And this is done fine. So now let's dig Now let's do because I'll just cut the contents again. EDC resolve.conf, and it's customary to put the search rippleadmin.internal, that's your domain, and specify the domain here as well, because if you do not specify domain rippleadmin.internal in EDC resolve.conf, then the system is going to query and respond to the queries that are done via FQDN, but will not be able to resolve if you query only the hostname. So let's do an NS lookup. And we just cross your fingers, right? It works fine. So let's see. And perfect. It returns what we're looking forward to. Wow. So let's do an NS lookup and lookup and rippleadmin.internal. Woo, it responds to this too. So let's cross check with Mac 1. It's 130. And it returns the address here 129, and you see the server that returned the address is 192.168.191.130. The address has been returned as 192.168.191.129. So this looks good, and we can just run a dig at localhost to have a look at the more elaborative detail, and you see that it's an authoritative answer that's been returned via redhat-v6-4-mac2.rippleadmin.internal. And also, let's check the host name, and let's do a host name -f, and this gives the host name, the fully qualified domain name. So you see the host name we have specified redhat-v6-4-mac2, and you do a host name -f, it gives you the host name with the complete FQDN. So let's traverse to the client machine that we have, and on the client machine, all that you need to do is to make an entry. Say, let's put a declare, say vi edc resolve.conf. And before you do that, that's all that needs to be done. So let's delete this and make an entry here. Domain search, and we can specify here rippleadmin.internal and specify the domain as rippleadmin.internal and specify the domain server here. So this one is going to be 192.168.191.130. Let's save it. Now let's try to NS lookup this, and it is not querying this. So let's try it with the fqdn.rippleadmin.internal, and this isn't going through as well. So let's have a look at our machine. So here, let's do a TCP dump -i, and this is, by the way, ETH1 interface, and specify the connection between host. Let's specify the 192.168.191.130 and 129. Let's sniff on this interface how it goes, and let's try to trigger an NS lookup query whether it resolves this or no. So I believe because when we initiated the NS lookup query here, I do see that there are requests at the specific interface here, and there's traffic going on in between, but somehow it is not able to resolve that. So let's figure it out why this is happening. So let's do a Control-C, and SC status, let's check the SC Linux, and it's set to enforcing mode. And let's disable the SC Linux for the time being. So SC status set enforce 0 and SC status. This is permissive, and service IP tables status. Let's shut down the IP tables too, because we just want to keep it simple. So service IP tables stop. Let's put a check config service off here. Check config IP tables off here. And let's do a service IP6 tables status and service IP6 tables stop. Sorry. Let's do a check config IP6 tables off. Let's put it off. And let's try to do an NS lookup here. And it returns fine. Perfect. Wonderful. Beautiful. Amazing. So this has got something to do with the IP tables, and you can add an exception to the firewall opening the specific port in which the DNS listens this. DNS listens. So you can do that. So as far as this is concerned, it has set a task right. We are able to set up a DNS server and do an NS lookup. So in case you intend to make, the current folder that we are in, the things that are of major interest to us at this point of time. Now, you see the contents of the internal forward zone, the repolanen.internal.forward zone that I have specified here, and you can, at this point of time, in case you intend to make another entry to it, then you should not be forgetting to increment the serial counter as well, because this is used to seek updates by the slave servers, and you should be incrementing it every time you make a query. So every time you make a query, do not forget to increment this counter by 1. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, and so on every time you make a query. So I hope so, guys, that you enjoyed watching this tutorial, how you actually go about setting up a DNS server, maybe in a production environment, or probably in a production environment, you need to put up the IP tables in case you're using IP tables as your firewall. But usually in production environment, you see that you usually use an external firewall. So maybe a checkpoint or something that's in place. So that's all for now. And I request you all to subscribe to my channels for more technical video updates, which I keep on posting. And I hope so you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for viewing. Bye-bye.